Well, thank you so much for being with me today. Today, a very special day. We have a privilege of having Bradley Watson from Watson Estates. Bradley is a realtor, he's an investor, and as an investor, he's invested $40,000 with his wife in the early years, and they doubled their money every year for the first 3 years. Really great to have him. We're going to talk about getting a house with a basement apartment and using that as an investment and an opportunity to make income. Bradley's also a YouTuber. Really great to have you with. It'll be valuable use of your time.
Thanks for your time. I really appreciate how good you've been to so many people, clients of mine and so on, taking care of them on the real estate side. And just today, what I'd like to do is ask you to help us understand if someone was going to purchase a house and they want to get it with a basement apartment, like why would someone want to do that?
Yeah, I think for people, often I'll actually have a conversation with clients that didn't even come in with this idea of having a second suite. And when we talk about basement apartments, really what we're talking about is a second unit. But often I'll actually steer them that way for a few of these reasons. I think the big thing here is cash flow. This idea, even if it didn't pay your whole mortgage, generally, if you actually have a basement, they don't tend to cover the entire mortgage. If you go to a position where you're in the basement, which is even a step further, which is something that I did in my early days of investing, then you can actually cover the entire mortgage. But this idea of having a cash flow is actually a second income source. So maybe you've got a spouse that's thinking about having children, or you need that, or maybe you're looking to retire. Having this second income can subsidize a lot of those things. So I actually tend to encourage people. Now with it comes its own challenges. But if you're able to suck it up even for a couple years, and if you're looking, especially if you're looking for an end game of getting into the investment space, it's a beautiful place to start with your own home and kind of take it to that next level, which actually takes in this idea of primary residence, where you live, right? So if you actually live there, there's actually a few tax benefits that come with it. Of course, there's stuff on the mortgage side, which you see. This idea where people can use it as their income in addition to the money they're putting down for their own income. So they've got maybe 2 jobs. Now you're able to count an additional income, this rent that's going to be charged. Or if you don't live there, you can actually still collect 50% as an income. So you're boosting that income, helping qualify where you might have not otherwise been able to. And this idea of taxes, because you live there, you're no longer in this fight against capital gains. So for an investor, to give some context, when you invest and buy a property, when you go to sell it, you have, even if you're collecting income, you're getting charged for that income, which is the same. But when you go to sell it, you have, or if you actually move, or if there's any transfer of title, even if you don't sell it, you end up having to pay this big capital gains tax, which is 50% of the growth.
That's right.
So if you live there, you're given what's called a primary residence exemption, even on that income, which is a quite beautiful thing, because you can make income and get this appreciation that you might not have been able to, and then not have to pay the tax on it. So there's a lot of benefits on the side, but just to keep it, I guess, really simple, this whole concept of you can afford something you wouldn't have been able to afford, or at least help you subsidize the cost and add this cash flow to your portfolio, and any Canadian can do that.
That's really good information. And when we talk about preparing for retirement, we talk about building a net worth, and we talk about building income streams that are going to feed us in retirement. And getting a house that you could partially rent out like this would be one way to accomplish your efforts to build a net worth and create income stream for your retirement. Now, if someone wants to do this, what do you think would be important things that, before they kind of get into it, what should they know, and what should they be aware of?
Right. Yeah. So right off the hop, and a big angle that a lot of people miss is this idea of it being legal. So when I have clients come up to me and they say, I want a basement apartment, they'll say, I want it legal, or I don't really care. Many people say they want it legal, which is in their mind this idea that if there was ever a fire, there's an escape route for the tenant, and there's just safety. It's this idea of taking care. But the government and the municipalities don't look at it from that angle. Really, what they look at it is if it's registered. In other words, they know it's there. So you can actually have a legal unit that's done to code and everything is great, but the city doesn't know, and therefore you could still get hit with thousands of dollars in fines. On the flip side, you can actually have a registered unit that was grandfathered that's actually not even legal. So you can have a lot of the current fire codes not met in a unit, but because it was registered before a certain date. The other thing is certain municipalities actually restrict or don't even allow basement apartments. So
Yeah.
if to you it is important, and I know when you go to qualify for a mortgage,
Yeah.
the lender now is asking whether it's registered with the city.
Mhm.
So if it's not,
Yeah.
and you were really counting on that income to qualify for the mortgage, you have to make sure it's registered,
Yeah.
which opens up a different window of buyers because in various cities, even a fraction, under 25% of the majority of cities are registered with the city, even though they're kind of built the code and ready to go. So that would be the first aspect that I would speak to. The other thing is to the idea that maybe you don't have a basement apartment, maybe that's not something you're looking at now, but it's
Yeah.
something you want down the road. It's also something you can do, and you can partner with the city to have a unit created that falls within the guidelines. And you
Okay.
want to make sure you know what it currently has and what needs to be done in order to get that. The other side of renting that kind of freaks people out is this idea of tenants, and you're gonna come home. And I actually, funny enough, had a rental property where I had a tenant leave, and they stole my stove. Tenants can be a
Wow.
challenge.
Yeah.
So just recognizing that is a part-time job, especially when you're looking to get a tenant. If you can get a really good tenant, you forget you have that basement tenant.
Yeah.
If they live in the same home, though, there is going to be a noise, and as well as there's going to be. It actually, I really like the idea of living where you have a tenant because it makes becoming an investor really simple.
Yeah.
Because you always got an eye on the property.
Yeah.
So that idea of tenants, and I think the best way to protect yourself for that is the location. Some of the areas, especially around the GTA, where you've got locations that are heavy rental spaces and the prices are less.
Yeah.
Those are the areas where you're going to be racing back and forth to find a tenant, whereas the ones that are more expensive, tenants are easier to find and they're less headache. So there's kind of this balance between price and strength of your tenants. So I think that would be something you want to pay attention to, as well as if you are buying something away from your home, how easy it is, accessibility for you, because you don't want to be driving across the 401
That's a good point.
a couple days a week for showings that people might not come.
That's good. No, that's good. And
Yeah.
that is really valuable information. And I will say this, that if you want to do that, go with an A lender. Typically, you can put 5% down if you get a mortgage with an A lender. But because it's a rental and part is rented out, there's going to be a minimum of 10% down. So you have to put a little bit more down. Just be aware of that. And the lender's going to want you to have a signed lease agreement in place before the close date. So there's just some things to be aware. Now, Bradley, I got to tell you, we work together with servicing a lot of clients over time. And I really appreciate the fact of how much you care for the clients. And it's meant a lot to me. We've been very proactive. And I just want to ask you, why do you think, because there's different ways, to approach getting a house, why do you think that someone who would be looking to get a house with a basement apartment like that, why should they consider going with a real estate agent, someone like yourself, than kind of doing it on their own?
Yeah. I mean, I would encourage anyone that's kind of considering this idea of getting a basement apartment or a second suite to seriously learn for themselves how it works.
Yeah.
And really, the true test is to do it. So in many ways, as much as you can get all of this head knowledge, until you actually experience it, you're not going to know how to deal with a tenant that steals your stove.
Yeah.
So I would say that to get started in the first place as an investor, so from the investor standpoint, you're going to want to, whether it's a realtor or otherwise, you're going to want to partner with someone that understands how investment properties work, because there's this whole other lingo, this idea of cap rates and cash flow and what do you need to qualify and how is it different? All of these aspects to buying either commercial properties or rental properties that don't exist in just buying that cute little semi-detached, right? So there's that side of the investment. The other side is this idea of a realtor. And of course, having someone in your corner is important. There are other countries around the world that don't have buyer representation. And so I think people here in Canada that don't take advantage of that are really missing out, especially considering you're not paying for that service. It's paid for by the seller and the selling brokerage. So I would encourage anyone to leverage when you're going to buy. You're going to pay the price when you sell, but why not take advantage of that at the time of purchase? So, I mean, in my case, I'm involved in the two, but I would encourage someone to at least have someone in both of these aspects that are able to help them and really to navigate and try and mitigate some of these challenges, because you're going to have challenges.
Yeah. So let's say one of our listeners here today, they're interested in that. They want to learn more. And they say, I like this Bradley guy. what would be the best way for them to reach out to you? How could they, how do I get a hold of Bradley if I wanted to talk to him or if I had more questions to follow up? How would they reach you?
Yeah, so if content is what you're after,
Yeah.
and I would say you can follow me on YouTube at
Yeah.
Watson Estates, and we share that information down below.
Yeah, we'll put it underneath below.
Yeah, my website is watsonestates.ca, which has all of my my personal contact information. Me and my wife, and I have other people on my team. We're all partnering together to kind of advance this concept of families helping families and not really get involved in just a transaction. So I'm happy to share information if that's where the search stops. But I'm also happy to help people with their search if they're looking for something.
Well, listen, very valuable use of my time here and you also watching. I really appreciate you being with us. Thank you, Bradley. And thank you for being with us. Listen, have yourself a great day and stay tuned for more information like this. Please subscribe below. Click the bell for notifications for interviews like this. Listen, have a great day. Thank you so much. Take care.
I trust that was a valuable use of your time. I really enjoyed interviewing with Bradley. Bradley's contact information is going to be below if you want to reach out to him. Thank you so much for being with me and us today. Have a great day.